Have you ever wondered what personal hygiene was like in colonial America? In today's society, people spend a significant amount of money on appearance and fragrance to maintain good hygiene. But back in the 1700s, different standards of cleanliness were upheld. Join me as we delve into the world of colonial hygiene, from dental care and personal cleanliness to the use of wigs and soap, and discover how different it was from what we consider normal today. Did you know that maintaining good personal hygiene wasn't always a priority? In fact, in the 1700s, cleanliness standards were vastly different from what we know today. Colonists who settled in America lacked personal hygiene and didn't have access to the luxuries we have now, like showers and full-body baths. It's hard to imagine, but the only people who ever received full-body baths were infants. Instead, people would wash their faces and hands every morning with a small basin of water, and if they needed a more thorough cleaning, they would use a rag or sponge along with the basin of water. Swimming was a common form of personal hygiene back then, but it was mainly done to cool off rather than to get clean. Nowadays, people spend a significant amount of money on their appearances and fragrance because they believe that maintaining good personal hygiene is essential in today's society. The Puritan belief that filth was a manifestation of sin and the devil had a significant impact on the degree to which colonial society adhered to standards of tidiness. To maintain one's spiritual health, one must keep their body, clothes, and dwellings clean. However, bathing was a continuous topic due to the widespread belief that public bathhouses were centers of immorality and the spread of disease. Because there were no true dentists available, dental care in colonial America was extremely limited. Natural anesthetics such as figs, chamomile, alcohol, and even opium were frequently used during dental procedures such as tooth extractions that were performed by barbers and even blacksmiths. It was common practice to use dentures made from the teeth of poor people, as well as ivory and wood implants. Dentures made of metal wire and animal teeth were what George Washington wore during the colonial era, making him the most famous denture wearer of that time. These dentures caused him to be in constant pain and distorted the shape of his face. In the early days of American colonial life, the outhouse was a common type of building that served as a toilet. People would go to the hole in the ground that was covered by a small detached building so that they could relieve themselves. Those who did not have access to an outhouse, on the other hand, would use a chamber pot instead. This pot would be kept under the bed and the contents would be disposed of by throwing them out a window. This was an especially difficult problem to solve in cities like Philadelphia, where a high population density made it challenging to dispose of waste in an effective manner. It was common practice for people living in rural areas to dispose of their waste by dumping it into nearby water sources, some of which were also used for drinking. The majority of people who lived in colonial America cut their hair short and wore powdered wigs made from human or animal hair to protect themselves from getting lice. However, due to the fact that these wigs attracted insects, special precautions had to be taken in order to prevent infestation. Even though it was recommended that wigs be washed once every week, some people did not clean their wigs for several months because of the cost. Because of the pomades they were used to style the wigs, insects were attracted to them, and those insects ended up getting caught in the hair. In order to combat the issue, wigs were boiled in order to remove lice and scented with bergamot, bay leaves, and sassafras in order to ward off insects. Powders and oils were also utilized in the process of covering up body odor. During the decade of the 1990s, archaeologists were excavating the Jamestown settlement when they came across a peculiar tool. The tool was a hybrid of an ear pick and a toothpick, and it was utilized for both cleaning one's ear and getting under one's fingernails. People in colonial America collected human earwax for a variety of uses, including using it as a substitute for beeswax to prevent the thread from unraveling. This practice took place in the Americas. During the time period of the colonies, only the wealthy could afford the fragrant soaps that were imported from Europe. Those who were not able to afford it made their own or purchased locally produced soap, which was typically lye soap made from animal fat, lye, and ash. Those who were able to afford it made their own. It was not difficult to make lye soap, despite the fact that the process was notorious for being time-consuming and unpleasant. However, the soap that was produced was harsh, and it was typically reserved for use on items like dishes and clothes in the home. In the 18th century, bathing was recommended to non-natives, particularly to those who suffered from problems related to their reproductive organs. Some women chose not to take regular baths out of laziness, while others did not so in an effort to appear less attractive to men. They were under the impression that if they had an offensive odor, men would be less inclined to pursue or attack them. Native Americans had much better dental health than Europeans did because they used a variety of techniques to keep their teeth clean, such as brushing them with sticks, chewing fresh herbs like mint, and rubbing them with charcoal to brighten their smiles. Europeans, on the other hand, only used toothbrushes. In contrast, Europeans who settled in America typically did not take adequate care of their teeth, and the foods they consumed were frequently detrimental to their oral health. Bathhouses were common throughout the American colonies. However, their primary function was not to be used for personal hygiene purposes. On the contrary, they were regarded as opulent retreats where the wealthy could socialize and unwind in luxury. Even though the first toothbrush with a patent wasn't created until 1857, colonists already had a basic understanding of how to care for their teeth. They used coarse cloth, salt, and charcoal to clean their teeth. To remove any debris, they rubbed the cloth against their teeth using the coarse cloth. Even though the procedures used back then were not nearly as comprehensive as those used today, they were the best choices that were open to them at the time. Barbershops were places where men in the early European settlements went to take care of their personal grooming needs. However, barbering was not considered to be a particularly respectable profession. There were a lot of white men who had their enslaved people shave them, and there were a lot of non-white people who worked as barbers. In contrast, women were expected to dress in a more conservative manner according to social norms, so they did not typically remove hair from their bodies. It was assumed that women who did remove their hair did so either by plucking it or by using depilatory creams. It is now generally acknowledged that taking regular showers is necessary for maintaining and improving one's health and hygiene. This is due to the fact that bathing assists in the removal of bacteria and dirt from our bodies. Having said that, this wasn't always the situation. In the past, there were misconceptions about the effects that bathing had on the body, and some people believed that they would strip away important oils from the skin, leaving them susceptible to diseases. This belief stems from the fact that people used to believe that bathing could cause diseases. In spite of the fact that we now know this to be untrue, many colonials did not bathe their entire bodies more frequently than a few times per year. It is possible that the lack of cleanliness that existed during that time contributed to the spread of diseases. The good news is that recent scientific research has confirmed that taking regular showers is one of the most important things you can do for your health and hygiene. In point of fact, the World Health Organization advises taking a bath or a shower every day as a means of assisting the prevention of the spread of diseases and infections. In the past, there was a widespread belief that taking a bath could have harmful consequences. However, as a result of recent developments in science and medicine, we are now aware of the significance of maintaining a regular bathing routine in order to remain clean and healthy. As we conclude our exploration of what a hygiene was like in colonial America, it's fascinating to reflect on how much personal hygiene standards have evolved over time. While we may take our modern hygiene practice for granted, it's essential to remember that our ancestors had to work with what they had available to them. From the lack of showers to the use of outhouses and the use of unconventional dental care methods, personal hygiene was a vastly different concept during colonial times. We hope you found this brief journey into history informative and eye-opening. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to our channel for more content like this. And don't forget to leave a comment below to share your thoughts and insights about ancient Chinese hygiene practices. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you at the next one.